Hi everyone, my name's Jen. I'm an author and a book reviewer, and today I'm going to start a video which I think is going to be lots of little clips stitched together. I'm short on time, which I've been mentioning in recent videos, so I think the most sensible thing for me to do is just every day pop in here, film a little clip, talk to you for a bit, and then come back the following day. We've got lots to catch up on, so I want to talk to you about all the books I've read so far this year, because it's the middle of February and we haven't done that yet. I want to talk about all the books that I have bought so far this year. In fact, I have some books from Christmas that we have not talked about yet, so let's talk about that. You've been sending in some questions for me to answer, so I'm going to answer a couple of questions a day because I thought that would be fun. And then finally, I want to go visit some new London bookshops. So if you've been around a while, you'll know that one of my books, I think I said I was an author, did I say that? I write books, I've written 15 of them. One of them is this one here, which is called The Bookshop Book. It's a non-fiction book about 300 weird and wonderful bookshops around the world. I wrote it in 2012, 2013, it was published in 2014, so that's quite a while ago, and since writing that book, many new bookshops have opened in London, and what with COVID, shielding during COVID, doing IVF and now having a baby, I have been not so good at visiting these new bookshops, which is obviously not my job or anything. I'm not duty bound to go to report to every new bookshop that opens, but I do feel it in my soul that I should be going to these places. So I would like to visit some new bookshops. Probably only a couple in this video, but we can get to many new bookshops over the course of the year, and I'd like to take you with me. We can maybe buy some things. That'll be a fun time. So I don't know what catchy or not so catchy title this video is going to have, but essentially all the books I bought, all the books I've read, plus some extra stuff. Let's do it. So I think maybe we should just talk about the books I got for Christmas, because that is now feeling like it's forever ago and I haven't hauled them yet, so let me show you. These are books I had on my wish list that were kindly gifted to me by family members, and I will tell you what they are and why they were on my wish list to begin with. This is the first one. I'm saying I'm going to talk to you about why I added these books to my wish list, but this is actually one of the ones I have no memory of, but rereading the blurb now, it really does sound up my street. So this is Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin, and this is about a woman called Shell Pine who applies for a job in a florist. She sees a help needed sign on the door. It's run by a woman called Neve, and I think Shell falls in love with Neve, but there's a huge orchid growing in the middle of this shopping mall where the florist is, and this orchid loves Neve too and wants to eat her. So that's the premise. Who doesn't love human eating plants? And speaking of plants, this is Death and the Gardener by Georgi Gospodinov, which is translated from the Bulgarian by Angela Rodell. This is the winner of the International Booker Prize a couple of years ago. That book was called Time Shelter. I still really want to read it, but the text in that book is so small and I have issues with my eyesight, so I just haven't gravitated towards it. But let's appreciate the big text in this hardback. We like that very much. I was going to say this book sounds amazing. I think what I mean is it sounds desperately sad, and I'm sure it will be poetic and beautiful. It is about the death of a father, and it says, what is the quote? It says, "The end of our fathers is the end of a world. Death is a cherry tree that ripens without you." I mean, I'm sure it's going to be full of lines like that and it will destroy me. It says it is about a father, a son, an orphaned garden, and the consolations of storytelling and the arrival of the first tulips of spring. Then we have another book in translation. This is The Piano Teacher, and I saw this recommended in several places. Do you ever find that sometimes a book is stalking you? I saw it recommended by Eliza Clark, who wrote the book Boy Parts, which is a book I really, really like. And I saw it recommended a couple of other places. I feel like maybe it was Alice Slater at What Page Pod. That's an excellent bookish podcast. You should subscribe to it if the mood takes you. But yes, I just saw it recommended in several places, and this is not a new book, so it felt a bit like Fate. It's been compared to Ottessa Moshfegh. Lots of books are compared to Ottessa. In fact, I'm now getting a memory of Ottessa saying that maybe this is a book that she loved too. So maybe that's another place where I saw it recommended. This is Elfriede Jelinek's The Piano Teacher. It is a book that was first published in 1983 and it's translated by Joachim Negruskel, and it's about a woman who's a piano teacher and she both loves and hates her mother in equal measure, and I think she still lives with her, and at night she goes out and wants to have lots of sexual encounters with people, I believe, I know no more than that. I just know that she's trying to annoy her mother, I think. I think it's a book about self-destruction. So there is that. And then there is also this short story collection by Eva Valencia called Mystery Lights. And the blurb of this says, an influencer attempts to derail a viral TV marketing campaign with her violent cult following. A marriage between two ghost hunters is threatened when one of them loses her ability to see spirits. The lives of a famous painter in the twilight of her career and a teenage UFO enthusiast converge when a mysterious glowing orb appears in their small desert town. And a slasher-fic screenwriter looking for inspiration escapes a pack of wild dogs, only to find herself locked in an SUV with a strange man beside her. This just, again, sounds right up my street, which is obviously why I added it to my wish list in the first place. So those are the books that I got for Christmas. I will pause the video here, and the next time I see you, I will talk to you about all the books I have read so far this year. So for you, I'll be back in 1 second. Hi, I'm in the living room with a mountain of the never-ending laundry, but you can't see that. But who minds laundry when it's this cute? I mean, excuse me. I would like all of these in my size. Thank you very much. Right, I said I was going to talk about what I've been reading, and I am. And I'm also going to answer some questions. So let's just answer a couple of questions. The most asked question, because you're all very lovely, was how am I and how is the beginning of the year going? I am fine, thank you. I am well. And 2026, apart from all the rain, because it's rained for about 10 million years, has been really lovely. Lots of little outings, lots of different places. With the little one, we've been going into town more because now she likes the tube, which is exciting. We hadn't really been venturing into town much, so for the past few years it's definitely felt like I haven't really lived in London, which is fine because I like the area that we live in, but it's fun to go and explore, you know, things like art galleries and all of that, and she loves going to art galleries because they're big spaces with lots of colours that you can run around in and admire lots of different things, so that's been really fun. I went to the Wallace collection, which I'd never been to before. I don't know why I'd never been to it before. Anyway, it's in Marylebone. I'll insert some pictures here, but it basically made me feel like an overstimulated toddler because it's just so over the top and ridiculous in its design. But went there for Sana's birthday and got to see Sana, which was lovely, but also Lena, who I hadn't seen in ages, and Ariel, who I hadn't seen in even longer. And I'm sure that many of you listen to Ariel's podcast with Raylene, which is Books Unbound, which is another podcast I would very much recommend. So that was really lovely. I didn't get to stay for very long because we are experiencing peak separation anxiety at the moment. Not me, my daughter is experiencing that. So I wasn't able to stay for very long. I needed to come home to her, but it was lovely to see everyone, albeit very briefly, and also to experience that space, and I will definitely be going back. But yes, we're off to a very good start with lots of very cute moments. Oh, I like this question. Someone said, what books do you currently have reserved at your library? So let me open my Libby app. Does anyone, I find BorrowBox, people talk about that a lot, but I find that it never has anything in that I want, even though it's obviously linked to the same library as Libby. So I don't really understand that. If anyone can enlighten me, please do let me know. So for instance, audiobooks that I can get through Libby through my library don't appear on BorrowBox. It puzzles me. Anyway, so I have 3 audiobooks currently on, not hold, I'm in the queue for 3 audiobooks on my local library. So we've got Haruki Murakami's The City and Its Uncertain Walls. I haven't read Murakami in a very, very long time. His depiction of women, not so great. His depiction of queerness, I mean, it's lacking. It's lacking. But this is a follow-on to his book, Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, which was one of my favourite books by him. But I read that like 15 years ago. I don't really want to invest money in another book by him because I'm really not sure I'm going to enjoy it. But I'd like to give the audiobook a go and see if I still like his world building or if now I'm just fed up with the tropes that you can find within his work. I'm not sure. I will report back. This is always fun because it tells you how long you've been waiting. So I am 4th in the line and I started 30th. There's 1 copy in use and there are 43 people waiting. Then we've got Pick a Colour by Souvankham Thammavongsa, whose short story collection, How to Pronounce Knife, I've been meaning to read for so long and I haven't. But this is a book, I can't even remember, is it about a nail technician? Anyway, when I read the blurb, it sounded really interesting, and I may pick up a physical copy, but I thought I would reserve the audio at my local library. And then this one, I'm not sure if it's going to be my cup of tea, but I think one of you recommended it to me, and it's Water Moon by Samantha, Sotto, Yambao, and it's a fantasy novel, I think. It's Japanese. It says, I'm 19th in line, I started 27th, so I still have to wait several months for that one. But yeah, again, one that I'm not sure about, so I wanted to check it out from the library because I didn't want to just buy a copy of the book. So those are the books that I have on loan from my library. A question was, which feeds into the audiobook chat, how do you find time to read while parenting and working? If you're new, I have a daughter who's about to turn 2 and I look after her full time, but I also work freelance. So I work during her nap times and also in the evenings, and at weekends we try to find a bit of time for me to work, but because of said separation anxiety, that has been very difficult recently. So how do I find time to read? It is a very good question. It used to be easier when she was younger and she napped more. Yes, but this is just the phase of life that I'm in, and I don't begrudge it at all because I adore parenting her and looking after her and reading. You know, it will come back to a greater extent. I'm still reading, I would say, a lot, just not a lot compared to what I used to read, because books are my job as an author and a book reviewer, but my main job right now is being a mum, and that is fine. So at the moment I'm listening to audiobooks during nap times and then when cooking in the evenings after she's gone to bed. But I haven't read as much as I was reading last year, which I'm also fine about. So should we chat about what I have been reading? Because I've been reading some really great things. A couple of books that I think could potentially be, 3 books actually, that I think could potentially be on this year's Women's Prize for Fiction long list. I do still plan to read the entire long list as I did last year, and I do plan to read the entire Booker Prize long list later in the year as well. So when I say I'm not reading as much, I think a couple of years ago maybe I was reading about maybe 300 books a year, but that also included picture books I was reviewing for work, so let's not get too excited. Last year, maybe let's look into it. How many books did I read last year in 2025? I mean, in 2025 I read 102 books, which was 28,000 pages. For me, that's less than I would read normally, of course, but obviously it's all relative. I mean, that's a huge amount for a lot of people, and I'm very happy with the amount that I'm reading as well. And so this year, as I'm filming this, we've just got into February. I've just had my birthday. I just turned 39. So I'm enjoying, actually, feeding into the how are you question. I'm enjoying the glimpses of spring that I'm getting now. Not outside, but in my living room, because I've got some lovely tulips up there from the wonderful Mercedes, and also I picked up some daffodils at the shops the other day. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I'm telling you how many books I've read. So we are entering February and I have read 4 books. I'm in the middle of my 5th one, and 2 of the books are shorter. So I am definitely reading a lot less so far, but that's fine. And as I said, I'll be tackling the Women's Prize long list soon. The first book I read this year was Kit Wall's The Best of Everything, and for me this felt like a return tonally to her book My Name is Leon, which was her debut, and it's my favourite of her novels. Not because the same characters appear in both books, but just thematically I feel like they are very similar. They're about characters not in the care system, but maybe potentially being on the verge of needing to be in the care system. And she has a lot of first-hand experience of that because she's worked in adoption. And I think that really shines through these pages. These characters just felt so realised, and this book just broke me a little bit, but in a brilliant way. This is about a woman called Paulette, whose partner dies suddenly one day, and then she discovers that he was married and had another family that she had no idea about, and she feels as though she's not really allowed to grieve him, and she carries this throughout the rest of her life. This novel follows quite a bit of time, and we then follow her settling in and meeting somebody else and having a child, and I won't say more than that because then you're getting into the real, I guess, meat of the story. But it's about how that disaster, that tragedy, impacts everything that she does going forward. The plot towards the end of this book just went somewhere I really wasn't expecting, and I thought that she handled it so well, and obviously I can't say more than that without spoiling it. But if you loved her debut, then I would really recommend picking this up. And I have a suspicion this could be on the Women's Prize long list. It just felt like that kind of book. And then another book that I feel like could be on this year's Women's Prize list is not this one. This is a placeholder because this is her debut. This is Night Crawling by Leila Mottley. I don't have a physical copy of her latest book, which is called The Girls Who Grew Big, because I listened to it on audio. I just grabbed this off my shelf so that I would remember to talk about her new book. Again, this was one of my most anticipated reads for last year, and we're following 3 women in Florida, and they are each pregnant or have just had a baby, and it's how they meet each other. They've been ostracized by society. They are young mothers. They're seen as people who have really messed up, and their families don't particularly want to be associated with them anymore. Leila Mottley was first longlisted for the Booker Prize for her debut. Was she 17? She was very young, and I remember reading that book and just being absolutely mesmerised by the way that she writes. I know that some people will find her writing a bit over the top. She has characters who basically will say well thought out, complicated things that might seem unrealistic, you know, in the same way that some people criticise John Green's characters for saying things that don't particularly sound true. Her characters maybe can be used as mouthpieces for things that the book wants to say, but I don't mind that so much. I don't find it over stylized. I appreciate that it's a choice, but I did also still believe in these characters even when they were monologuing, and there were so many things in this that I wanted to highlight, and maybe I'll pick up a physical copy of the book. But just off the top of my head, at the beginning, Simone, who's one of our 3 narrators, she's giving birth to twins, and her partner Tooth holds them up. He doesn't really know what to do with them, and he's holding them like they're grocery bags, and I just thought that was a brilliant image. And I wrote down a couple of other things that I loved as well. Hold please while I find this email that I sent to myself. Oh yeah, these were other quotes that I loved. Like she could statue herself out of witnessing me. I thought that was a great turn of phrase. I couldn't save them with the sharpest parts of my childhood. And my name was owned by so many people in this town, it was hard to hear it and think of myself. I thought that was brilliant as well. If you love films by Sean Baker, things like The Florida Project and Red Rocket and Tangerine, then you will love Leila Mottley's writing, because I think that, I mean, that's just what I picture when I read her books. I imagine one of his films. So this is about a group of girls, but specifically 3 women. We've got Simone, we've got Adela, and we've got Emery, and all of them became mothers when they were teenagers or about to become mothers. As I said, they've been ostracized by their family. They find themselves in Florida, and they group together along with other teenage mums as well. So it's about belonging, not belonging. It's about found family. There are maybe some on-the-nose images in this book specifically to do with orcas and being beached and needing to be saved by the people around you and being lifted up and floating and swimming. Yes, but I will forgive that because the writing itself is so gorgeous. Yeah, so I could definitely see this being on the Women's Prize long list as well. The novel that I'm currently reading is this one, which is May We Feed the King by Rebecca Perry. Again, one of my most anticipated books. This one came out in January. I'm reading this one in physical form. I don't think there is an audiobook of this one, but this is about someone whose job is to create scenes in historic buildings, like setting up props and food and making everything look realistic, getting the right scent for a room as well, which reminds me of going to the Jorvik Viking Museum as a kid. I'm sure many of you have been to that in York, where they pump out the smell of that specific time into the museum as if you're living it as you're walking around, and it is pungent. It is pungent. Anyway, I'm really loving the writing in this. I've read Rebecca's work before. I love her poetry. I really enjoyed her non-fiction book on trampolining. I'll talk about that properly when I've finished reading it. And I have just got out from the library Oyinkan Braithwaite's new book, which is called Cursed Daughters. I haven't started it yet, but I've got that on audio, so I'll be listening to that one soon, and I'll talk about that in the not too distant future. The children's books that I have been reading, this was a gift, actually, should have talked about this in the last clip, because I got this for Christmas. Yes, for Christmas. This is Vita Sackville-West's A Note of Explanation, a little tale of secrets and enchantment from Queen Mary's doll's house. So this is about a haunted doll's house, and it is very, very charming. This is illustrated by Kate Bailey, and it says here, perhaps it is not fair to call the doll's house ghost a ghost, for that implies that she was dead, and far from being dead, there was never a more lively or inquisitive spirit, or one who prided herself more on being up to date. I just thought that that was so fun and charming and whimsical, so if you would like a book about a doll's house ghost that's really into fashion and throwing parties, then you might want to check that one out. And then this one is one that I bought for my daughter, but I love it and wanted to give it a shout out here. I will be doing another most beautiful picture books video at some point. I did one, I don't even think it was last year, I think it was in 2024, where I recommended 150 beautiful children's picture books, but I have more to chat about, and this is one of them. This is Ipcar's The Cat at Night. So this is about a cat who goes walking at night, and each scene appears twice. Let me find you some of my favourites. So it says, he goes softly through the blackness and we can't see what is there, but the cat can see as clear as day. What do you think he sees? And you turn the page and you see the scene as the cat sees it. And I just love the colour in this. I know the light at the moment is not brilliant. Please do excuse this February light, but I hope you can get, you know, the sense of how gorgeous this book is. It's really, really stunning. So yes, that is another picture book that I would highly, highly recommend. So that's what I've been reading recently. As I said, I would love to go to some new bookshops. I'm hoping to visit one tomorrow. So essentially, Mr. M, my husband, sometimes works from home. When he does work from home, I'm thinking I could sneak out during daughter's nap time. Obviously can't do that when he's not at home. But if she's asleep and I go out, I normally have about an hour and a half, 2 hours when she naps. So I could go and visit a bookshop and come back in that time. And if she does happen to wake up while I'm still out, he is at home. So all bases covered. So I think tomorrow I'm going to go and visit Funny Weather Books, which is a new bookshop that's opened next to Hampstead Heath. There are many bookshops, as I said, that have opened in London over the last few years. I'm going to try and visit some in North London for this video because that's, you know, where I live, in North London. There are some out in East London and some in South London, which I'm also very excited about. But those are much further away and I don't think I can get to them right now. So Funny Weather is the first one that I would like to go to. So I'm going to do that tomorrow and I will try and vlog that. So I will insert a clip here of me doing that and then we can come back and chat after I've visited that bookshop. I hope you can hear me. I never vlog out in public, so this is intimidating. I managed to pick up the new Ali Smith. I kind of had a panic thinking, am I buying the right one? Because it's Glyph, which is the same as her previous novel, just spelled differently. It's a bold move from the publishers and her, and I respect it. And weirdly, I ran into Tasman. I never run into anybody anywhere because it's London and there are 10 million people, but yeah, I ran into Tasman. If you don't follow their channel, I'll link them down below. Anyway, that was nice. And now I am gonna head home, and I will speak more to you when I am in my house and not out in public feeling slightly awkward. So yeah, I'll speak to you inside soon. It's the night time. Can you tell? What gave it away? I really liked visiting that bookshop. I worked in bookshops for over 10 years, and as I said, I wrote the bookshop book. And when Libreria bookshop was opening in London, whenever that was, 2017, 2018, like I helped them with the setup of their bookshop. So I'm always interested to see what new things people are doing, what people are gravitating towards. I would say trends at the moment, as I'm sure you have noticed, is that smaller bookshops are opening with other things in them. So like primarily coffee shops, but sometimes it might be something a bit more out there. And also specialised bookshops as well. So something that really sets them apart from the rest. And two bookshops that have opened recently, which I'm not going to get to visit in this video. And to be honest, probably aren't aimed specifically at me, but I'm very glad that they exist. So I'll go to them when I happen to be passing by them in the future, but I don't think I'll make a pilgrimage to them. There's Saucy Books, which has opened in Notting Hill, and that is a romance bookshop, as you can probably tell by the name. And then in Marylebone, there's Traveller's Tales, which is a very small bookshop. Again, I'll insert some photos here. And that is a bookshop that specialises in books on travelling, but their USP is that you can go there and read about a specific place, and then you can speak to a bookseller who can then help plan your itinerary to travel to that place. So they're kind of like a travel agent slash bookshop. So that is also quite fun. Anyway, so there are two new ones that have opened, but Funny Weather has opened on the Highgate side of the Heath, so down near Dartmouth Park. And it is a coffee shop when you go in, and then at the back there is a small bookshop. It's a very small selection, but I did actually really like their children's bit because it was in a little alcove room bit with like a bed in it, and you could close the curtains and kids could hide away in there, and I think that's really fun. So I enjoyed visiting there, and as you saw, I picked up Glyph by Ali Smith. This is the second in a duology. The first one is called Glyph but spelt G-L-I-F-F. I don't know what either of them are about, and I don't care because I've read all of Ali's books, and plot I wouldn't say is their central premise. They are driven by a love of language and playfulness and homages to literature and folklore. So I look forward to diving in, but I have to read the first one, and I haven't read that one yet, so I need to read that first. Then I thought I would quickly show you a couple of books that I got for my birthday. As I mentioned, it was my birthday the other week, and these were books that were again gifted to me from family members who had gone through a wish list that I have. They got me Mammoth by Eva Baltasar, which is translated from the Spanish by Julia Sanchez. This is the third in a loose trilogy. The others are Permafrost and Boulder, and they are just linked thematically, basically about very sad lesbians who are obsessed with the colour green and are also trying to work out whether or not they want to be mothers. That's what it's been so far, so I assume this will also be similar. Then I was given this collection of short stories by Eva Wiles called Deliverywoman. The book is by Eva Wiles. I wasn't given it by Eva Wiles. I'm sure that was obvious. But it says Deliverywoman is the stunning debut collection, 13 short stories that dive into the complexities of human connection, the pursuit of meaning, and modern-day loneliness. Across a diverse set of characters, from teachers and gas station workers to hedonistic revelers and wealthy gamers, Wiles explores the strange dimensions of our world and the dangers of ordinary life with needle-sharp writing, both surreal and real. It references Moshfegh again. I am kind of hoping this is going to be a bit like, oh my goodness, what is his name? Tom. I need to consult my phone because all names have exited my brain. Thomas Morris's short stories. That was really hard to say. Kind of hoping it's going to be a bit like that, maybe a bit like Danielle Pender or Saba Sams. So yes, sounds really great. And then this is a book illustrated by Julia Sada, who is potentially my favourite illustrator ever. This is Godfather Death by Sally Nichols, illustrated by Julia Sada, and this is an illustrated folktale. It says, Death is an honest man. He cannot be tricked or bargained with, and he definitely cannot be escaped. But for one poor desperate fisherman, he learns that lesson with the biggest price to pay. Let me just give you a glimpse at some of the illustrations in here. I talked about Julia Sada in my favourite books of the year video because there was a book by her that made that list. I just love her illustration style so much. So those are the books I was gifted for my birthday, and then I do have a couple of review copies. All of these bar one were sent unsolicited, and I don't tend to keep unsolicited review copies because I just do not have the space or time, but these ones did catch my attention and I have decided to hang on to them. So we've got Favorita by Michelle Steinbeck. This is a book that is translated from the Spanish by Jen Calleja, and I'm wondering if this will make the International Booker Prize this year. That long list is being announced very shortly, but this is about a woman who hasn't communicated with her mother for years. They fell out, and I think it's because her mum once advertised her brothel in the newspaper and she was really embarrassed. The daughter was really embarrassed, so she hasn't spoken to her since. So it sounds like a great premise. But then one day she gets a phone call to say that her mother has died, and not only that, but she has been murdered. So she has to go and try and find out what has happened. Then I also received a package from the lovely people at Yes Yes Books. They had contacted me about this book here, which is The Nothing by Lauren Davis, a haunting collection of short stories, it says, which harbours ghosts, mountain views, movie theatres, and pastorals to create a world that is both modern and eternal as fable. I think there's some surrealist short stories in here. So I'd agreed to review, well, to read this one when I can get to it and hopefully review it. And they also snuck 3 extra books into the package, which is cheeky, but also I respect it. And they know my taste, so that is exciting. And 2 of them are collections of poetry. First, another collection of short stories. We've got Book of Exemplary Women by Diana Sin. It says, through the rituals of faith, illness, and death, and the affections of ghosts, vampires, and disappointing men, the girls and women of the Book of Exemplary Women view the world with narrowed eyes, cool and shrewd and knowing, pushing against expectation, questioning what they are supposed to want and who they are supposed to be. And then we have poems by Alison Blevins called Cataloguing Pain. This is a collection of crip poetry, so disability poetry, so I'm very, very excited to read that one. And then the final one that they sent me was Born Backwards by Tanya Olson. And the poem on the back that's quoted, it says, "Let me not be the last butch stranded on Last Butch Island." So I enjoyed that already. So I really do love what Yes Yes Books stand for. I don't know if they were the first people to publish Denez Smith, but they definitely published one of their very early chapbooks. So they've always got their finger on the pulse, and I love what they do. So those are the books that I was going to talk to you about in this segment. Why don't we answer a couple of questions before we go visit another bookshop? Let's do some quick fire ones. So someone asked, what is your favourite recipe to bake for a treat? I don't get to do this as much, but my favourite at the moment is sticky toffee pudding. I will link my favourite recipe below. It's one of those things that when you make it and you realise what goes into it, it's slightly concerning, but also it's just delicious. How could you not love it? Jen, what was your best YouTube discovery of 2025? Okay. So my best discovery of 2025 was Jetlag the Game. If you are not following this channel, you must, wait till the end of this video, but then you must go and check them out. So it's a YouTube channel run by Sam, Adam, and Ben, and they basically take childhood games and turn them into big, long-form games that you can play around the world. So they play tag across countries. They play hide and seek across countries. So basically one of them will go and hide somewhere. They have 4 hours to get from a certain location to somewhere else. And then the 2 seekers have to ask questions to narrow down areas of that country and then go and hunt that person down. Then once they catch them, they rotate, someone else goes off to hide, and whoever has the longest run wins. It's just a lot of fun, and they are just so enjoyable to watch, and their friendship warms my heart, especially Adam and Ben's. It is great. My favourite series of theirs that we've watched so far, because we have watched many of them, is one where they race to get to as many European countries in, was it 72 hours as possible? So they had to travel to different countries where they could then claim that country, but then if they wanted to lock that country down, they had to do a specific challenge relating to the history of that country, and then the other team couldn't steal it, and whichever team had the most countries at the end won. It was so entertaining, and I also really enjoyed their hide and seek in Japan series. That was great, but honestly I've loved everything that they've done, so that was definitely my favourite discovery of 2025. They only, in inverted commas, have like 995,000 subscribers. That's obviously a lot of subscribers, but I would have thought they should have millions. So please do go and subscribe to them. And Jen, what was your best TV show of 2025? I'm immediately forgetting everything that I watched in 2025, which admittedly was not a lot. But I think Mr. M would agree about this, that the best show we watched in 2025 was called Culinary Class Wars. It is a Korean cooking show with 100 chefs. We have 20 white chefs, so they are like Michelin-starred chefs, and then there are 80 black class chefs, and those are chefs who run like izakayas or just have very small businesses or work for other people, and they are pitted against each other. The challenges are so inventive, so it's not like watching MasterChef or anything like that, which, you know, has its place and all of that, but the challenges are just ridiculous. So for instance, one of the challenges, which I guess is going to sound like it's out of The Apprentice but really wasn't, was that they had to get into groups and open up a restaurant within 24 hours, and whoever sold the most food the 4 hours after they opened their restaurant won. And they thought it was going to be a series of customers that would come in one after the other, but what it actually was a sit-down table with I think 20 or maybe more mukbang creators who just ordered and ate and ate and ate, which changed the dynamic because it meant that they could tell each other which foods they really liked, and they would reorder the same stuff, and it was just really fascinating. I would recommend checking it out. It's on Netflix. I'd also recommend The Devil's Plan, which is another Korean reality TV show, and that is a group of people who are competing to solve quite complicated problems. It's a lot of fun. I think I will pause here, and I will come back to you very soon to talk to you about the next bookshop that I would like to visit. In fact, let me tell you what that bookshop is, because maybe the next footage I'll jump to is me going there. There is a bookshop called, oh my goodness, what is it called? Book Bar, which has actually been open quite a few years now. I think it opened during the pandemic, and I haven't been able to get to it yet. They've actually just opened a second branch, which I think is in Chelsea, which is very far away, but the original branch is like near Finsbury Park, so I would like to go and check out that bookshop and see what I can discover there. So yes, the next clip will be me going there, and then we can come back and have another chat afterwards. Hello. Oh, I look windswept, and I haven't been outside recently. I'm windswept from life. Okay, I couldn't really film much in Book Bar because it's a really small space and there were lots of people in it, and I didn't want to be that person shoving a camera in people's faces because that's rude. But hopefully you got a bit of a feeling of what it's like. But this is the one that I went for, and I don't think I've ever heard of this book before, and that's what I like to use bookshops for primarily. Obviously, when I went to Funny Weather, I ended up buying an Ali Smith book, which I had heard about, of course, and had been meaning to purchase. But if I can in a bookshop, I'd love to just pick out something I've never heard of before. And I was able to do that because the selection at Book Bar, even though it's small, was really interesting. So this is May You Have Delicious Meals by Junko Takase, and it is translated from the Japanese by, oops, got a little bookmark, love it when you get a bookmark. It is translated from the Japanese by Morgan Giles. This is about the power dynamics of an office. It says they're never more obvious, these power dynamics, than when it comes to food. Mandatory lunches with the boss, the colleague who tries to curry favour with home-baked goods. Oh, see that pun there. Discovering the discarded remnants of someone else's late-night binge. So it says, well, it's got quite a long blurb, but anyway, it seems like it's about two people who are drawn together at work and they eat lots of food together. And Hiromi Kawakami says it's really funny and alive. And I read the very beginning of it and it sounded great. It's very short. It is 131 pages. And yeah, I mean, that ticks many, many boxes for me. So I'm very pleased to have picked that up. Have you read that one? Did you like it? I think my glasses might be filthy, so let me just clean those 1 second. Much better. All right, let me answer some more of your questions. We've talked about YouTube discoveries. We've talked about TV shows. What is your recommended reading for someone about to start IVF? I don't know if I have recommended reading for that. To be honest, I put off reading anything to do with the subject while I was going through it. I ended up writing a book myself about it, which is called Please Do Not Touch This Exhibit. It's about IVF and disability in folklore. So that might be something you want to check out. I really enjoyed reading The Unfamiliar. Is it called The Unfamiliar? By Kirsty Logan. I'll insert the cover here. That's about trying to conceive. It does touch upon IVF. Also talks about baby loss and things. So a lot of, I don't know how you're feeling about IVF, and I just want to say also massive good luck to you. But I just couldn't read about it. Maybe you are a very different person to me. I'm not sure. I did actually recently take part in a project that Cardiff University were doing about poetry surrounding IVF, which was really interesting. And I will link that in the description box down below because I love being part of that. I gave a talk for that. So yes, I'm glad that the material exists out there and I liked coming to it retrospectively, but in the moment, I just couldn't. So yes, anyway, best of luck to you. Jen, would you judge another book prize soon? Are there any particular ones you'd like to judge? So I've judged many a prize. I have judged the Forward Prize for Poetry, the Costa Book Awards, the Somerset Maugham Awards, and many like pre-publication book prizes as well, mainly run by Scottish Book Trust, and other prizes that have momentarily exited my brain. I would love to judge another prize in the future, and I have been asked to judge some recently and I've had to say no because I just don't have the time right now. But I would love, of course, at some point in the far off future, I would love to judge the Women's Prize, I guess, is the one anybody would say, but just not at this period in my life. I am enjoying reading it, following it as a reader at the moment. Will you go back to wearing wigs was a question that a few of you asked me. If you're new, I have alopecia. I lost like half of my hair. I still have lost half of my hair. It hasn't grown back. And I used to wear wigs every day. And I just stopped when I had a baby because who has time for that? I don't have time for that. And also, I feel like having a child makes you really, or at least it's making me really think about things differently, like the way you want to show up for yourself, which means that you're showing up for your child. And I am doing my best to be like happy in the body that I'm in. My alopecia is kind of burnt out, so I'm not sure I will lose any more hair. I mean, I might do, but it's grown a lot longer, and because of that, I'm able to pile it up on my head. I mean, you can still see the bald patches, and those inevitably shine through when I'm out and about. To be honest, when I'm out with my daughter, I don't think about my appearance twice. And that may be because, pros and cons to this, as a mum, I feel like you're kind of a bit invisible, except to your child. So I don't mind that. But I do know that if I'm out without her, which is very rarely, I think last year I met up with friends like twice, maybe 3 times throughout the whole year. So it's not very often. But I am more... self-conscious is probably not the word. I'm more aware of myself when I'm not with her. So maybe as she gets older and I have more time without her, and also just more time in general, I will think more about that. But at the moment, I don't wear wigs. Yes, I have bald patches. That's just life. That's fine. A very different question. Do you worry about AI in your line of work? Yes. Yes, I do. And I work freelance for the Society of Authors, and the amount of people who are struggling because they're losing work due to, you know, lost translation work because of AI, or journalism especially, is worrying. Illustration too. So I do worry about that. I don't know if you're also asking it in like relation to YouTube. Am I worried about impersonation and AI? I guess a little bit. That's something I think about less. But I mean, good luck to them recreating my hands, I think is what I say. AI struggles with hands at the best of times. Good luck with mine. Speaking of hands, someone said, I must know, did all your nails fall out after having hand, foot and mouth disease? Very important question here for this very important question. So October last year, my daughter got hand, foot and mouth because toddlers get all kind of medieval poxes, and she very kindly shared it with me. And yeah, a few weeks after that, my nails started to fall off, which is a complication of having that. And I think because I have EEC syndrome, and that's related to nails and hair and all of that stuff, it probably impacted me more than maybe it would impact someone who doesn't have that. So yes, most of my nails did fall out, which is why I'm still not wearing nail varnish, because all of my nails are still growing back very, very slowly and a little bit painfully. The next question was, what is your mum superpower? And I'm assuming this means that, like, as a parent, you have to do very specific things relating to your child, and you feel like that's something that you can really nail. Like, that would be your topic on Mastermind if you went on there. So the thing that I think is my mum's superpower is that we have a Yoto player, which I would really, really recommend. I think one of the other questions was actually like, what are the best toddler toys that you could recommend? She has a Yoto player, and I used to listen to audiobooks all the time when I was a kid, obviously still do. And she has some audiobooks for it, but primarily at the moment she uses it to listen to music. She's got an ABBA card. I'll insert a picture of a Yoto if you haven't seen one before. She's got an ABBA card, a Queen card, also some nursery rhymes and stuff like that. But she will request certain songs based on the pictures that show up for that song. So for instance, ABBA's Lay All Your Love on Me is a pink heart. So she will say to me, pink heart. And if I have the Yoto player, can flick through to find the pink heart, and that's fine, and you don't have to think too much. But if we're not with the Yoto player and I have to request the speaker to play that song, I have to remember pink heart is Lay All Your Love on Me. And I have to know that, friends, for like 50 different songs. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Dozens of songs. Anyway, I have to know what the picture is and the title of that song relating to that picture. I think that is my mum's superpower. Did that make any sense? Did you follow me? I hope so. Oh, let's answer the toddler toy question now, given we're talking about Yotos. So yeah, I had quite a few questions about toys I would recommend for toddlers. I don't know if that's because you have a toddler or you would like to gift something to someone. I would always recommend speaking to the parents if it's a gift, just because there's so much stuff involved in having children, and some of it is unnecessary stuff. So yeah, speaking to them and finding out, you know, what they actually need in their lives, I think is really helpful. But if you're talking about yourself, then where was I going with that sentence? So we have in our living room, I will do a cutaway, but when we moved in, I didn't like this about our living room, that we have these alcoves where the chimney used to be. And they're not that great, I think, but for a toddler, they're amazing because they're like a little alcove at toddler height that they can play with. So I use that for toy rotation and putting toys in for her to play with. But in one of them, we have interactive play, because she's really... Interactive play? Imaginative play, because she's really into that. So in one of the alcoves, I've set up a kitchen. In fact, I need to tidy that after I have filmed this clip, because you know what they say, get your child a kitchen, then you have 2 kitchens to clean. But she loves cooking in that kitchen, and I got the majority of things for that from, is it pronounced Sostren-Gren? And a couple of things from Flying Tiger. So wooden fruit that she can chop up, and a pan. And I didn't want to buy like an actual kitchen. You can buy a wooden kitchen with oven and what, I just didn't think that was necessary. But if you've got a space, even if it's just like a small table where you can set up some kind of interactive play, imaginative play, I keep saying interactive play, then I'd recommend that. And the good thing about having the kitchen is that I got a couple of extra things so that I can change it every week, so it's something slightly different. So when it's not a kitchen, it can be a grocery store, and I got a little basket and a till, but all the veg is still there. Also still keep her tea set because she just loves that so much. So even when it's a grocery store, it also has a tea set. Or some days I will take out some of the groceries and it'll have bread in it and it will be a bakery. So that would be my recommendation. Like, think of ways that you can reuse the same things to set up a new scene. I'd also just recommend going to your local charity shop. We've got so many things from our local charity shop, and Le Toy Van is a brand that I love if you're thinking of a special gift for somebody. They do really good doctor's kits and tool kits and stuff like that. So I will link those down below as well. And I think is this the last question? I think so. It says, how is your work going? Are you writing a book at the moment? I'm not writing a book at the moment. My brain is just not in that space. I think I've used that phrase many times in this video, but I think it is appropriate and warrants re-saying. I'm not in that space. That's okay, but work is going fine. I am doing freelance work, as always, as a book reviewer, and as I said, I work for the Society of Authors. I also work for Inclusive Books for Children, who I've mentioned before. They're a great company. I'll link them down below. I did have some film work at the beginning of this year and the end of last year, which was exciting for me because I'd never written a film before, like a narrative for a film. And I was approached to do that and spent quite a bit of time on that at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And then the project ended up falling through. I still got paid for it, but that's just the nature of film work. So that was a new experience for me. And I don't think I can really talk about the ins and outs of it because that doesn't seem very professional. But it was a really fun project and I was so thrilled to be asked to do it. And I feel like I learned a lot from it, even though the project didn't end up happening. So maybe I'll do more film work in the future. But yes, that one was sadly not meant to be. So I think that's everything that I'm going to talk about in this video. I've talked about all the books that I have read. I've talked about all the books that I've purchased, some review copies. We've gone to some bookshops. I've answered lots of your questions. I feel like this video is maybe going to be nearly an hour long. Let's have a look. This clip is 15 minutes. Yeah, it's going to be nearly an hour long. So yeah, thank you for spending time with me. I hope that you're all doing okay. Let me know what you've been reading in a comment down below, what you've been purchasing, if you have been purchasing, what books you have on hold with your library, because that was a fun question to answer. If you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe. And if you like this and you would like to consider throwing $1 in the tip jar over on Patreon, or £1, because this is the UK and we have pounds. I'm just so used to saying dollars. If you would like to throw some form of change into the tip jar over on Patreon, that would be amazing. Support over there just allows me to keep creating more free content for you here, and there's some bonus stuff over there as well. I'm sending lots of love and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Bye.